As you know, on Wednesday nights, we just kind of just read through the Bible. As Christians through the ancient times would get together, and they didn't have maybe a lot of knowledge here and there, but they gathered together in houses and just read the Bible together. Families do that together, but it's good that we can do that as well. And I hope that in the future, there'll be lots of little groups around Novi Sad and the other places where they just, maybe someone has not felt called to preach or called to lead, but they can at least get together once a week and read the scriptures together, And so I hope this is a blessing. So we're reading through Exodus. Tonight we're going to be in chapter 21, and we're going to find some very interesting concepts here. And we're going to talk about it, okay? Does that sound good to you? All right. So we find that there's going to be God's giving them rules to live by. He says, I want you guys to go to a special place that I'm preparing for you. But it's not just going to be what we say in English, a free-for-all. No, there needs to be rules. There needs to be regulations. Your heart is sinful. So everybody's heart's sinful. Unless, wait, hang on a second. Is there somebody in here tonight that does not have a sinful heart? Is there anybody? Am I missing somebody? No? You got a sinful heart?
Yes.
Yeah? You got a sinful heart? Does Brock have a sinful heart? Okay. Marco, you got a sinful heart, Marco? You got a sinful heart? Yeah? We all do, don't we? So, we... God doesn't have a sinful heart. But that's why we need direction. And so God gives His people, I want you to be peace, I want you to live peaceably, I want you to flourish. But in order for you to do that, I've got to give you some regulations. And so He's going to go through here, and He's going to give His people these regulations. Okay, so let's look here. Now, these are the judgments which thou hast set before them. If thou buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years shall he serve, and in the 7th he shall go free for nothing. Go out free for nothing. Which means you can't keep him all of his life. If you take someone to help you like this, sometimes they wanted to be a servant. I'm broke. I'm in a bad situation. And I'll go up to Daniel. I say, please.
Usually it's me.
It's you. I'll go to him and say, please hire me. Please let me live in your house. Let me be your servant, and you feed me and take care of me, right? And so it was a good thing. It was a way to help each other, okay? All right? Sound good, Milosh? Go like this. You got a mosquito on your head there. There you go. I think you got him. Thanks. All right. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. So let him keep what he had. He worked hard. Let him have what he had. If his master have given him a wife, and have borne him sons and daughters, the wife and her children shall be her masters, and he shall go out by himself. God is trying to set up a just system here. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I don't want to leave. I don't want to go out. Could you imagine living in this time, in this day? It'd be much different, wouldn't it? Sometimes we say, well, that would be crazy. Well, they're looking at us saying we're crazy, But this is the way God said this is going to be the best. Sometimes we as humans, we think God's ways don't make sense. Well, they don't make sense to humans, but they make sense to God's, don't they? You know it? So, then his master shall bring him before the judges. He shall also bring him to the door or unto the post, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. An awl is like a little nail. Almost. But he had an earring. He got a hole through his ear. Not a ring, but he had a hole in his ear. You know where a lot of this come from?
Where?
A lot of guys and people wear earrings.
Why?
Well, it's originally a sign of giving yourself unto somebody else. Right? So this is what would happen here. And so this is what he did. Shall bore his ears through with an awl. So he'll be able to show everybody. They didn't wear wedding rings. This guy wouldn't. But he could show the world that, hey, I'm somebody else's property. At that time, right? And if a man shall sell his daughter to be a maidservant, he shall not go out, for as the men servants do. If she please not her master, who hath betrothed her to himself, then shall he let her be redeemed. To sell her unto a strange nation, he shall have no power, seeing he hath dealt deceitfully with her. And if he hath betrothed her, do you know what betrothed means?
No.
You know what betrothed means, Marco? What's it mean? Nothing? No? Betrothed. To be like married, to be given unto, right? And so if he is given unto her somewhere else, if he had taken to his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. If he take him another wife, for her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. Which means you need to treat everybody equally. All right? And if he do not these three under her, then shall she go out free without money. He that smiteth the man so that he die shall be surely put to death. Smite is intentional. The idea of you hit somebody so hard, whap, and guess what happens? He dies. God was very serious. We talked last time about you can tell by your parents' face. Say, no, don't touch that. Well, you might be able to touch it again and not have any problems. But if your dad looks at you and says, Belle, you stop that. She knows. Yes, sir. Right? Right? You can imagine even the face of God when he's seeing here. He says, I'm not messing around. I need you to take this seriously. You need to treat people with kindness and to be just when you get to this new land. I'm not making things up. I'm not messing around. Right? So you can kind of get that tone from when God is speaking and writing things down.
Hey, listen up. You listen.
Right, exactly, yeah. If he smited the man so that he died, this man shall also be put to death. I think the USA, we still have the death penalty. We talked last week that Serbia does not have the death penalty. I think Belarus does have the death penalty. Russia,
Russia, no.
just
But we have like it's
not official, it's just in
no,
prison.
They have some agreement,
Uh-huh.
and because of that, they don't kill these people. If they cancel this agreement, I forgot this word.
Then he could,
Yes, then they can. But now they change. Yeah. Instead of that, they have to spend the rest of his life in prison.
life
But
sentence.
if they cancel this law,
Uh-huh.
they can.
Yeah, there's no death penalty, there's just the FSB. KGB, no? Like the FBI. No,
Depends.
depends.
Who was killed.
Who was killed, yeah. Yeah. It's good, it's interesting learning the different cultures and things. We don't have the death penalty in our house. We don't do that in our house. Is that good? You glad? Yes?
But he's still here.
Yeah, right. But God was serious. He wanted people to see how serious this was. And so one of the reasons you may say, Exodus is so boring, all these things. But I'm telling you, God wrote this down so we can be reminded of us. So we just are going through it. And it says this, if a man lie not in wait, but God delivereth him into his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor, presumptuously is to pre-think. Now, if I'm wrong in any of this, you guys feel free to speak up. But it's to pre-think. Like, oh, I'm telling you what, that Nikolai, he stole my Legos, and I'm going to get him. I'm going to feed him old moldy milk. And he gets sick, right? That's presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile. Thou shalt take him from mine altar that he may die. That's pretty heavy stuff. So God is trying to get rid of this whole wicked mindset. So when they go to Israel and they get this new land, that they're going to be able to live in peace for a long time. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. It doesn't say, look at this. It doesn't say he that hits his father or mother and she dies shall be put to death. It says this, if you just smack your mama, you're done. That's it. Yeah, does that happen in the Bishop family? So if you get mad at mama, That's what the Bible says. It says this is what happened. If you get mad at mama, you say, you know how sometimes you get so angry you shake? You're like, "Grr." You remember that? Yeah? You get so angry, you look up at mama and you just punch her.
Never come out with it.
Could you think about that? Yvisha, have you ever punched your daddy?
No.
Katharina, you ever smacked your mama? Could you imagine? Wow, I've been in places where I've heard of family fights, family feuds, and and wow. But God hated this so much. He said, if you even hit your mama or your daddy, you're to be put to death. That's so strong. And you could say God's not kind, God's not loving. We know God is kind and loving, but more so is He's serious. I'm not messing around. And that's the same God that lived in those days is the same God today. Now, how He treats us, like I said before, is different, right? I don't know if you can tell right now, but the way that I talk is very slow, right? Very, maybe kind of cartoonish, right? Why do I do this? Well, I have some children with me today, and I want to talk in a way that they can understand. Right? So this is what we might call a dispensation of life. But as they get older, I'm going to stop talking more like this. I'm going to be like, listen, guys, when we go here and we do this, this is what's going to happen. I'll be more direct. Right? So God worked in the old ways. It's the same God. I like coffee this way 5 years ago, and in 10 years from now, I'll like coffee the same way. Right? So God worked differently in that time as He does today, right? But He's the same God. So imagine the same God that looks at you and you smack your mama. He feels the same way today as He did then. It's crazy to think about. I've seen some kids running around parks and they do some pretty mean things to each other, push people off the slides, right? They might be mean to their parents, disobedient to their parents.
She was good on time and boy said, "Get out of my way."
Yeah. It's not nice. And God says we're going to go to a new land and we're going to try to live peaceably together. We're not going to live like the wicked people. And I wonder if God writes this down because He's seen all sorts of little kids that would smack their mama or beat their daddy. He says, no, you're not going to do that. Not in this land. And he that smiteth his mother or father shall surely be put to death. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. Whoa. Now in the USA, we have this big thing about slavery. It's in the news. You've probably heard a lot about slavery. Well, a lot of what that early American or even European type of slavery was stealing somebody, right? And so God said, ooh, I do not like this. Now, there was forms of endowment or slavery that God said, I do approve of that. But that type of slavery was more like being an employee, right? I live with your house. I come and I be with you. And I'm going to make a commitment to you, right? And if you do that, he says, only for 6 years you can make a commitment. Not a lifetime commitment, unless after the 6 years, you say, I want this to be my life, okay? So we find here, if you steal somebody, you know what Mom and Daddy were scared of many years ago? We read some stories about Serbia. That sometimes as an American or a foreigner, they'll take your baby from the hospital and they'll sell it to some foreign. This was a story we heard about. So we were very scared having babies in Serbia that maybe someone would steal. Propaganda, probably, Misha. I don't know. We have no idea. But God looks at stealing people. He says, I don't like that. Not just don't steal stuff, but if you steal a person, right? So here's the story. So if Brock and the bishops go back and they say, man, we had so much fun with Marco that we're going to sneak him in our suitcase and we're going to take him back to America, is God going to be happy with them or not happy with them? Not happy with them, would he? No. You can't go back with Brock, okay? You stay with us, okay? Okay. But God would not be happy. He would not be happy at all. And if men strive together and one smite the other with a stone, why would he have a stone? Because sometimes when we fight as little boys and little girls, you're going to do it someday too, Missy. Don't look at me like that. No, you just pick up whatever you have and you're like, oh, Sergey, he plays the piano so much better than me and it makes me angry. And I throw this at him because I find whatever I have, and maybe I just find a rock and I get so angry. The Bible, man, you know what Daddy struggles with? Eating chocolate and anger. Yes. Sometimes I get so angry. Remember one time I was in another place in time, I got so angry, I just like, I want to hit something, and I looked at the wall and I said, you evil wall, and I punched it. Pretty crazy, isn't it? Have you ever done this?
Sometimes I get mad at myself.
He says,
Sometimes I get mad at myself and I
Yes.
just punch my own self.
like this. That's pretty crazy. But that anger, that's in most people, and it's really big in guys too. And God says you need to learn to suppress that. You need to quit that. You need to breathe and don't let that come out. Because look what happens. You make one accident. You say, I'm just so angry. I pick up this coffee cup and I throw it at Daniel. And it hits him on the head, falls over, and he dies. I didn't mean to kill him. I was just angry. Do you see how anger can get you in trouble? Wow, I think the reason God wrote this down so we today can read what happened. And so we can understand that God hates it when we get so angry and we do stuff like that. Look, it says in verse 18, it says, if a man strive together and one smite another with a stone or with his fist, and he die not, but keepeth his bed, then this is what you're going to do. If he then rise again, he gets up. Daniel doesn't die. He's just sick for a long time. He gets up, and the rest of his life that he has to walk upon a stick or a staff. Then shall he that smote him be quit. Only shall he pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. So we have things like insurance policies and things that help take care of that. Back in the day, God said, no, if you're going to do something dumb and you're going to hurt him, you're going to give him your own money till he's better. That's a pretty good system that God put up, isn't it? And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall be surely punished. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. If men strive and hurt a woman, this is a tough one, and hurt a woman with a baby in her belly, so that her baby dies, and yet no mischief follow, he shall surely be punished, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. You know what that says to me? When God looks at a woman with a baby in the belly, he says that's life. Now many people today, they say, no, that's not life. It's okay. There are some people I seen on the news. Now, I don't want you to get hurt in your mind, but they see a baby with the belly, they might go and they might punch the belly, and then they punch the belly so much that the baby dies. This has happened in other places around the world. It's very sad. And God says, ooh, I don't like that. You don't do that. He says, if men strive, you're fighting, maybe you two are fighting, and you push somebody, and you get pushed over to a lady, and she falls off the balcony. You didn't mean to hurt the lady, but you pushed her. So you're going to have to pay whatever her husband says, because you just hurt the baby and it died. So God looks at a baby in the belly as a real life and something special. That's pretty good news there, isn't it? So And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life. An eye, you've heard this before, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. And if a man smite the eye of his servant, or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go for free. Without anything, because you just hurt that guy so bad, let him go. That's what would happen. And if he smite out the manservant's tooth, or the maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go for free for its tooth's sake. And it looks pretty just to me. If an ox gore a man or a woman, you know what gore means?
No.
Gore? You know Al Gore? Anybody know? I'm just kidding. Al Gore was a guy running for president at one time. I don't even know who he is. But gore, someone volunteer to come up here so I can gore them. Who wants to come here?
Me.
Okay, come here. All right. I'm gonna gore Nikolai. Is everybody okay with that? If you're queasy,
You mean Marco?
yeah, Marco. Queasy, shut your eyes, okay? I'm gonna gore him. If this is my horn, look at me. And I'm a cow, and I go, and I poke you in the belly, and it goes in, and I gore you. That's called a gore. Oh, that would be hurtful, wouldn't it? That'd be sad. You can have a seat. Thank you. Wow, that would be painful. Watch this. Watch what happens. If an ox or like a cow, if it gores a man or a woman that they die, then guess what you need to do to the ox?
What?
Not just kill it, but kill it in a painful way. So that's to be stoned. You know, they could just kill it simply, but it says no. You're going to take punishment out on this ox. You're going to throw stones at this cow so much that it dies. Could you imagine how many rocks you would have to throw at a cow to kill it?
That's a lot.
That's a lot of rocks. Okay, now probably it's somewhere big, but imagine all the people coming together. It was a lot of times it would be like a show, like a community involvement, like this ox needs to die. So they would take rocks and they would throw it at the ox. Can you imagine? We just went to the zoo. We went to the zoo yesterday at Subotica. And we're walking around, and then we hear this. It's a little much scarier than that, okay? It was a lion. It was a male lion, right? And he heard it everywhere. Could you imagine the kinds of sounds that an ox would make as it's being stoned? Now, I don't know if oxes do this, but if I was a different ox and I'm looking at that, I'm saying, I ain't goring nobody. You know? I don't think they did that. But it shall be stoned. Not only that, but his flesh, you're not even going to eat it. But the owner shall be free to go. However, it says this, but if the ox it liked to gore people, it liked to be evil, and it did something with its horn in the past, then if it be testified to his owner, basically someone says, hey, by the way, dude, your ox is mean. Let's put this into the perspective of a dog. Okay, we have dogs here, and we're out here, and the dog comes up and bites Marco. And we tell it to the owner, like, hey, your dog's biting people. And she says, oh, Fluffy wouldn't bite anybody. Fluffy's my cutesy. Okay? Okay. And we go out, and next day we're playing in the park, and it comes up and bites Nikolai in the face. Gah! Well, now it's no longer the dog's problem. It's the owner's problem. Because the owner didn't deal with it in a right way. Now it's you, the owner, that have to suffer the consequences. So God is trying to build this what's it called? Not reliability, not sustainability, self-inflection, self-responsibility. Accountability. Like self-accountability. It's like, hey, to do what's right is to take care of this dog because God values people more than animals. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Okay? And if an ox gore a man or a woman that it die, then the ox shall be stoned. But if the ox were typically to push with his horn the pass, and it was told his owner, and he kept him not in, but that the ox killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned. And guess what? And his owner shall also be put to death. People look at God and say, man, God is so mean. No, no, no. God is just. He loves people. He says, listen, you need to love people like I love people. Treat people with respect, with kindness, and don't let your animals hurt people. Right? We have a similar situation in modern day with vehicles. If a certain vehicle has a problem and the mechanic or the owner didn't take care of it, we have like airlines, certain problem right now with Boeing, right? And Boeing, big airplane people in America, they were told about some problems and they just kind of didn't do anything about it, right? And then all of a sudden, problems started happening. Well, this is the same kind of concept, right? Of where we get this whole responsibility from. All right. If there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whosoever is laid upon him. Whether he have gored a son or have gored a daughter, according to his judgment shall it be done unto him. If the ox shall push a manservant or maidservant, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels of silver. This was the price. And the ox shall be stoned. If a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it. Ooh. You know what? This happens quite a bit in Serbia. Doesn't it? Yeah, we were walking right over here. Right across the park. And I'm walking around and I go, what's this? Whoa! There's a hole. I almost fell in the hole. Now it wasn't very deep. It was probably just this deep. Oh, I could have broke a leg. Marco could have broke his face.
Sometimes we try to dig holes and trick people.
That's the kind of attitude that God doesn't like, isn't it? To intentionally try to trip somebody or hurt somebody. That's why we read this, to get an idea of God's character and what God likes and doesn't like. You know it? It's good, isn't it? He says, if a man shall have an open pit, if a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or a donkey fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, basically to make payment, to give money. Give money to the owner, and the dead beast shall be his. And if one of the man's ox hurts another, that it die, then shall they sell the live ox and divide the money of it, and the dead ox also shall they divide. Or if it be known that the ox hath used his time to push, again the same kind of story, and his owner hath not kept him in. If you have a bad bull, now my wife, she used to be a cowgirl. Okay, maybe not a cowgirl, but she was a girl that worked with cows.
And she also got deer.
She worked with deer. Yep, she was a farm girl. And she did fencing and she had cows. Let me ask you, did you ever on your grandpa's property have mean bulls? She says yes. There were some mean bulls. And so sometimes they would keep them separate because they wouldn't play nice with other cows. Okay? So if it be known that you had a bad cow and his owner had not kept him in, or maybe you could say a bad dog, and you just let your mean dog run around the streets, old Billy can do what he wants, you know, then he shall surely pay for the ox, and ox for ox, the dead shall be his own. That's a lot of information.
So if a man kills the ox was alive and he has ox, he gives his own ox to him. His ox died.
It's called justice. It's one of the key characteristics. If you look at Daddy and you say, if you start to talk about Daddy's characteristics, what do you talk about? What are some things? Now, I don't know if I should do this.
Cheeseburgers.
All right, when you close your eyes, let's just try this. I may have to delete this off the video, okay? I'm gonna try it. When you think of Daddy, What are some things that you think about? Milos, go ahead.
Cheeseburgers?
Cheeseburgers, okay. What do you think about? You think of Daddy?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, that's better than some things. Kaylin, what do you think when you think of Daddy?
Can I open my eyes?
She can't say. Okay, she's...
Can I open my eyes?
Karen?
Carrie, not
Caring. Okay, not that I'm a Karen.
Can you
Or you
open my
open your eyes to open it. Now, if I was going to describe myself to you, okay, I would say carpenter. I like to work with my hands. I like to make things. Okay, I like discoveries. You know, maybe technology discoveries. Discover how to do music. You know, I like discoveries. This was the same when I was a little boy, like Marco. Marco likes to build things. That's one of his characteristics.
Me too.
Right?
I like to put puzzles together.
Like to put puzzles together, right? These are characteristics of our lives. Well, when we read even the Old Testament, sometimes Serbians say, the Old Testament, the Bible's not good for nothing. And I'm telling you what, that's not true. Because when we read stuff just like this, we're able to pull out characteristics of God. And one of the characteristics of him is justice. He says, if this is going to happen, this is going to happen. One of the things that really influenced me as a carpenter when I was working in the U.S. is I found out that many Christians took advantage of other Christians. They say, oh, you build houses? Can you come build mine for free? Because I'm a Christian. You find this to be the same. I know you do. Don't lie. Especially in here, no. It's a characteristic of Christians nowadays. Someone says, can I give you a cookie? A Christian says, do you have 2 cookies you could give me? That's not good. But that's what happens a lot. And so when I grew up really having a bitter taste for Christians because we're always asking free and say, give me a discount. And then a lot of times I would go, be poor and broke because I felt the need to help everybody else out rather than being just. But I began to read the Bible and I seen 2 great godly men. One man's name was Abraham, right? And Abraham grew up listening to just this. Abraham didn't have the New Testament. Abraham had this. He learned these stories, and in his mind, he had the characteristics of God in his mind. All of a sudden, one day, his wife died. He loved his wife, didn't he? And the people in that village, in that place, said, Abraham, you're such a good man. I want to give you this cave. Machpelah, however you say it. And Abraham said this, no. I'm going to pay you for this cave. And the people said, no. Now, if those people would be modern Christians, they would say, or if Abraham was a modern Christian, he would say, oh, you're going to give me a cave? How big is it? How many square feet? Square meters. Do you have 2 caves? Is this cave air conditioned? No, I'm kidding. No, but Abraham said this. No. That's a beautiful cave. You worked hard on that cave. I'm going to pay you what's it worth. Not give me a discount, but what's it worth? And the people said, no, Abraham, you're a godly man. You can take the cave for free, right? Well, you know what? Abraham said, no, I'm going to pay you for what it's worth. And so Abraham eventually paid the guy for what it's worth. Didn't he? Right? Another story is a man named David. Everybody remember the story of a man named David? He also grew up without the New Testament, without reading about Jesus Christ in the flesh. He read all these stories and he had a concept of God as well, a picture of what God likes and doesn't like. And because David understood that God is just, one day a man and him were in this field. The man's name was Onan, I believe it was, right? And an angel come down. It's a very special place. This man named Onan looked at David and said, boy, howdy. He said, this is an awesome place. He said, I want to give you this land that you can do something special with it. David says, I agree with you. This is a special place. Yes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pay you for this land. And Onan said, no. It's free. or at least a discount. And David said, no, I'm going to pay you for it. There's two godly men that God said, these are good dudes. And they had God's characteristics in his mind. So as I've learned, when we read through here, we see things like not to take advantage of things. To always be looking out for somebody else. If there's a hole that's not covered, then maybe we should cover it up. Be able to take, if there's a vehicle problem, maybe I shouldn't let someone drive the vehicle until that's taken care of. Right? To have that mindset of others first. To take care of others. Go ahead.
So if I am walking on the road and I see a broken car and I ask the owner, can I give you your car? Can I give you my car until yours is fixed?
Well, I see. How does that apply today? Well, we're out here playing in the park, and there's a big piece of glass on the park. We could ignore it. I didn't put it there. But do you think when God looks down and he says, man, this is my world, and there's some trash there? Furthermore, this kind of trash could hurt somebody. Do you think after reading this, it almost seems like God would smile and be pleased if we would pick that up and take care of it so someone else doesn't get hurt? I see that it looks to me like God would like that kind of attitude, right? To help prepare and keep things okay that someone else doesn't get hurt, right? But many times today, especially even in Serbia, we have to rely on someone else to tell us what to do. It's only if the government tells us to do this or not to do that, right? It shouldn't be that way. God says you should be able to be in a place where you can think for yourself, to be able to take care of others, help, and make sure things are done justly. Right? I think that's good. You got any questions? You guys, anybody have anything else that stood out to you, that popped out in your mind? It's a little bit of a difficult. We're going to go through chapter 22. It's going to be a lot of the same in chapter 23 as well.
I'm gonna read it.
We'll wait for you.
Just survive.
Just hang in there. So we're not going to read chapter 22 tonight, Milos, but we'll read the next couple days. We'll read through this. But just keep in mind as we go through this, the reminders. What we're doing is we're building a picture. That's one thing that's lovely. When I went through Bible college, one thing that stuck in my mind is that as a preacher, I am a paintbrush. Your mind is a canvas. And it's my job, and the Bible is like colors, right? The paintbrush gets thrown away at the end. The paintbrush is just a tool. But what's going to stick forever is the colors on the canvas. So to help you guys be able to get a good, beautiful picture of not just picture of God, but a picture of who He is. Right? Is God silly? Is he funny? Is he just kidding? Or is He loving, caring, but just? How many times does He have to say something?
One.
He just wants to say it one time, doesn't He? And us to obey. I think it's true. Yeah. Well, that's all of chapter 21. We'll go through chapter 22 next time. I'm going to mark it here. And then we will get into that next time. But we have Pastor Bishop here with us. Okay. So I'm going to have him come up, and we're going to ask him a series of very difficult questions. I'm just kidding. And then he's going to pray for us, and then we're going to get dismissed out tonight. We'll put this on you here so we can get you.